My name is Cole Ross.
And I'm Jala Prendes.
And this is a bonus level, part of our continuing series on the Ace Attorney games, this time turning to Phoenix Wright's Trials and Tribulations. Welcome, Jala.
Thank you. It's been a minute since I've been on any level.
I know. You had COVID and you're busy developing your own show. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then like all the guys have been really good about attendance for the most part, except like at the last minute sometimes. And it's like, well, I'm sorry. I'm actually already in my jammies. I wake up at 4. I'm sorry.
We can't expect you to be on call. So
yeah. So but I am happy to be here, though, to talk about this game with you, and that you actually got to play the game faster, like you promised. So we did before a year passed, and it's only been several months at this point, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, had a really busy summer. Was the thing, and as usual, what got me to finish it was having a deadline. I assessed. All right, Jala, give me a day. Yeah. So. But I like this one a lot better than Justice for All. I think that Justice for All ultimately ends up being kind of a nadir for the series at large, really.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's this middle game of the trilogy, and the middle case of the middle game is like literally the bottom of the barrel. So it's pretty interesting in that way that it happened to fall out.
I want to take a look and see your Ace Attorney cases ranked, because pretty recently an article, it was earlier, it was on February the 2nd of 2022, the blog Matt Has an Opinion did a ranking of every case in Phoenix Wright, or in Ace Attorney broadly, including like the investigations games and including the Great Ace Attorney, things like that. Yes, the only one that was ranked as outright bad was Turnabout Big Top, and it starts going meh at 49, but like pretty much every Justice for All case is in the meh category. And obviously lists are subjective, stuff like that. I found myself kind of nodding along, and number one on this is Turnabout Bridge. Which makes a ton of sense. I love that trial. And I'm excited to get to talk about it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because this is, of course, just I have been limiting myself. Like, I have other Phoenix Wright games. I've got some on my 3DS. I still have the other Great Ace Attorney Chronicles game. And I have just been like, no, don't play those, because you need to focus, stay on the trilogy. Don't play a whole bunch of them and then get confused about what is where. And, let the shine of other things that you see, distract you from remembering all the details for this one. So now, once we are done recording this, I am free and I can go play the other ones. So that'll also be interesting, because I even got one of the investigations games, like a fan translated version of that.
Nice.
For my, So anyway, I guess we should probably talk about this one, though.
I think we should. As per the previous ones, I'm going to kind of let you let you lead here, but a lot of this is still fresh for me.
Yeah. So I will lean on you, particularly for any kind of play-by-play questions I've got, especially for the first half of the game, because it's been a minute. Yeah. But overall, let's just kind of touch on some of the production stuff like we do on all of these. So this is, of course, a visual novel developed by Capcom. It was released in 2007 in Japan, 2008 in USA and Europe. And Shu Takumi wanted this to be the last game in the series because he felt that he'd fully explored the Phoenix Wright character, and he didn't want the series to kind of just dwindle into nothingness after that. And so this was the end of what he wanted to do. And actually, the third episode of this game, Recipe for Turnabout, was intended as the fourth episode of Justice for All, but was cut due to memory limitations. Would that have made that game better or just more of the same? Like, I don't know how you feel about that particular um, episode. I guess we'll get to it when we talk about those in detail, but in general terms.
Yeah, I don't think that Justice for All needed to be longer.
Yeah.
But also, like, I'm not that down on that case. I know people are dissatisfied with the main villain in that, and some of the supporting character work that's done in there. Like, you basically get a male replacement for Wendy Oldbag in that, which is divisive to say the least. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
when I think about this, I think, man, this could have been a really good two game series. because
Yeah.
because like just the worst stuff tends to be filler, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And well, it kind of makes sense though, because in that case, you have a returning character that is featured more prominently in the second
Yeah.
game, I think. I don't
No,
know.
she is.
Anyway,
Yeah.
okay.
Maggie gets I mean, she's introduced in the opening case
Yeah.
of Justice for All.
They all blend together, and I was like, wait. Isn't there that one that was on the first one, but that was actually in the second? The release orders and stuff make it really weird, because I think she was introduced at the beginning or at the end of the first game in a certain release because of some mechanics on the hardware
Mm-hmm.
where you could, like use for the case stuff. Like they were using the fancy dongles. So she was in the first game at the very end and then pops up more in the second game,
Yes.
but then reappears in the third game in this one episode. So
Mm-hmm.
that would have made more sense for her to be in that second game, but also I agree with you, that game did not need to be any longer. It took so long. But so this game though, it has a variety of different cases that are defended by both Mia Fey and Phoenix Wright, and it heavily features flashbacks, as you might imagine, by the fact that you are getting to play Mia Fey, who is dead at the beginning, or not the very beginning, but very close to the very beginning of the first game. So
Yeah. I like this as fan service, like you end up being able to play this is barely a spoiler, but you end up being able to play not only as Phoenix, but as Mia, and as Miles Edgeworth, which is awesome. Like it's cool to be able to play as those characters because you spend so much time in their, the your point of view characters' reactions to things. It's interesting to see the differences in the ways that they react to stuff. And this also feels a little bit like a dry run toward what this series would become in its fourth and fifth entry, in Apollo Justice, and especially in Dual Destinies, where you're playing as multiple lead defense attorneys.
Gotcha. So about the gameplay on this one, there's no change.
Yeah.
Shu Takumi was satisfied with the gameplay in Justice for All, so did not introduce anything new in this game whatsoever. So it did receive generally favorable reviews, but there were some critiques because there were no gameplay changes, no developments there. But it was a commercial success, and in North America, they sold double the pre-orders they were expecting. So, probably part of the reason why the game continues, to develop new entries over time.
Yeah.
So
the lack of new gameplay features does not feel like a bummer to me, and I want to hear you if this echoes your experience. Trials and Tribulations, though the cases do get a little bit more complicated, the it lacks Justice for All's what I will call press snarls. Right, where you've got to press a later statement to go back to a previous statement and press that or present that. It just kind of seems that like they figured out how to streamline and keep the process of untangling things just a little bit more, let's say, linearly logical.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I don't feel like the investigation sections needed any more things to do.
No.
Like it's a good balance that they already struck by the time they get to this game. So for me, I also did not feel any kind of dissatisfaction with the fact that there are no additions to the gameplay, because then you get into that whole problem that some of the Pokemon games get into, where it's like they have 7,000 systems because they're just pulling systems and systems and systems and systems forward. And then you've got 70 billion things to do that you can engage with. And, you know, some of them are just kind of senseless. They're just there for people who like them. But, you know, like that's, you get too much gameplay bloat there.
Yeah.
And this keeping it familiar, but also streamlined to where it doesn't feel like, and now you've got another hoop to jump through. So, and they did definitely do some work on how they were presenting those cases to where I still feel like that's kind of a gameplay advancement, even if there's no actual new mechanic involved, because they do so much of a better job of using the tools they've already, you know, established by this point in the series.
There's a lot less pixel hunting in this, is what I noticed. Yeah. And I'm also not like, let's say, philosophically opposed to the expansion pack sequel either. Like, this is a storytelling platform, you know, like I would probably be happy if they kept these mechanics and then just kept delivering new stories like once every other year for a long time, as long as they felt like there was cool stuff they could do.
I mean, I play a bunch of visual novels that have gameplay light. Like, this has more involvement than that. This is kind of like a visual novel / adventure game. But, you know, I play visual novels. I don't care about the mechanics too much. I know that it does draw other people in who maybe don't like the lack of mechanics in a pure visual novel format. So I'm down for the changes. I'm down for all of the different things that this does and how it influenced later games that would be in this kind of crossover genre, which should have its own name at this point because there's enough entries in this style.
Well, one of the games that was inspired by this took the very good genre name, which is Contradiction. Like, oh yeah,
there you go.
It's just Contradiction. Like, this is investigation, but it's mostly about like looking at information as presented and trying to poke holes in it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I think that pretty much wraps up the kind of pre-spoiler wall stuff. There's not much else to talk about. This is the third one. We've already talked about the rest of it. So let's go ahead and head into those cases. Let's start with case number 1, Turnabout Memories.
This is a much better way to handle a tutorial because you are playing Mia Fey's first case, and you are not, as in Justice for All, playing Phoenix Wright with head trauma.
Yeah, and it works really well because it establishes different characters and shows you a growth arc for Mia without having to show you every play-by-play of that growth arc, you know. It establishes the characters, you know, it has Grosberg come back. Of course, Winston Payne is there because Winston Payne is always there, which makes me very happy.
He has a ridiculous haircut.
All the time. Like, it's so great. And that's why it's like, when I saw Winston Payne's ancestor in the great Ace Attorney Chronicles, I was just like, oh, this is the best. This is the best. I love this. So man. MVP Winston Payne.
He becomes a real pain in the ass in Spirit of Justice, if I remember.
Oh, does he? Yeah. Okay. I'll keep that in mind whenever I get to that one. So this one takes place 5 years before the current day in the game. And in here, Phoenix Wright is actually charged with murder of his classmate, and Mia is his defense attorney. So this case is interesting because Phoenix Wright has a love interest named Dahlia Hawthorne. So that's the first thing that's weird. He's got this amazing pink sweatshirt thing on that has like a big letter P and a big heart.
So dopey.
It's so dopey, and it's not said, but it almost feels to me like he has that, and then like Dahlia has one that has a D on it somewhere, like that kind of a feeling. Although, like, you find out as the game progresses that she is not actually head over heels in love with him the way that he thinks.
Right. And like taking that apart is part of this first case because there's a little bit of mystery around this, but Mia knows something's up with Dahlia because she's had a run in with her before. We're gonna find in case 4 in this.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, Mia is just set on the edge anyway, because Dahlia, when she gets on the stand, not only does she have a little cute parasol and the big doe eyes and all of that, her music is very tranquil and kind of, coy. And she blushes a lot and really works her charms and has butterflies that float around her and follow her wherever she goes. And she charms every male in the courtroom.
Uh-huh.
And Mia is just like, come on,
You have to be able to see through this. It's not precisely like a femme fatale that is working with this, because like the traditional like noir femme fatale is a little bit more, let's say, sinister on the face. It's the wife in Double Indemnity, right, who obviously is up to no good, seducing the insurance adjuster, right? Dahlia herself, this it feels like a character trope that I do not have the language for, literally.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the sort of petulant female character who's just like the little sister or the one that everybody wants to protect or whatever in like anime. And that character turned on its head a little bit because actually she is sinister and plotting and evil, and she turns everyone's expectations of her from how she looks and how she's acting to her advantage. It's kind of Danganronpa-ish.
Oh yeah.
If I'm being, because that's really like the Danganronpa steez, at least in the first game, is to take those tropes and then turn them on their heads.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Dahlia does here. So
yeah.
It's not cranked up to 11 like Danganronpa, but it's the same vibe.
Yeah.
So
the cause of death in this one is super dramatic. It's electrocution from a downed power line. Yeah. Which is hard to see as anything other than an accident. And Mia's job is to prove, like, hey, this was actually put together because an initial plan failed, because she was going to poison Phoenix with his cold medicine. He's wearing a little mask during this.
And I love it because the cold medicine is called Cold Killer X, and it's like, how much more obvious can they make it with that? That's the cause, that's what's going on there, But yeah, part of the thing that makes this tricky is that Phoenix is like, but I didn't kill him and everything, but his handprint is found on, homeboy's body, like on, his fingerprints are on this guy's body. So it's like, it makes it look like Phoenix pushed him, because he was also on the scene of the crime at the time when the police and everything showed up.
Right.
So,
and he also starts working against Mia because he's head over heels for Dahlia. He thinks that she can do no wrong. So when the case starts turning toward her, you've got to like poke out the holes in his hasty, impassioned defense.
Yeah, because he's like, oh no, he's willing to indict himself in order to prevent Dahlia from doing anything, because his Dolly wouldn't ever do that.
Yeah.
So
and part of this involves also digging up the past, right? Because like we said, Mia has this initial like really negative reaction to her. It's like, oh, here she is again. And that's because Mia's former partner, Diego Armando, died of poisoning in the past, and it was unclear who actually did it.
Yeah, and that was after a case where she was involved, and she was on the scene of the crime, because this happened like right after her trial, or right in the middle of her trial during a recess or something. He was poisoned. There was poison in his coffee, and they never found any poison on her. So that's kind of the thing that we end up finding as like a big deal, because um, Phoenix has this love token, this ridiculous necklace with a little bottle on it that has a big old heart on it, that Dahlia, because he first met Dahlia in the courtroom. I don't remember what he was in the courtroom for, but he was there, or maybe he was outside. I don't remember. Either way, she runs up to him and they first meet. He falls head over heels in love with her because she's pretty. And then she's like, here, this is a token of my love or whatever, and hands him the thing. Well, that's like the bottle that had the poison that killed the dude. And so, and then like, wasn't this the one where he swallows the bottle?
I forget if he swallows the bottle.
Somebody swallows the bottle sometime. I thought it was in this one where he swallowed the bottle and like ate the evidence. Oh yes, it was because it boils down to like they go to a recess and Mia's uncovered, okay, that bottle is the evidence and whatever. And then Phoenix runs out of the room and he swallows the evidence. He just like, oh no, my Dolly wouldn't have done that, and just eats it. And then you come back to the courtroom and like, I'm just waiting for something, like maybe he spits it back up or whatever, but no. He like, they're like, oh, well, he would have died if that had real poison in it. And then they're like, no, it's been so long that it became benign.
Yeah.
But then Mia switches tacks and talks about the Cold Killer X and says, well, Dahlia, if this wasn't poisoned, you won't have a problem taking this cold medicine then.
Yep.
And then Dahlia's like, fine, you got me. Rats. So
she'll go pretty far to cover herself, but she will not poison herself. She'll let herself be killed by the state.
Yeah. Yeah. So she is sentenced to death at the end of that episode. So pretty hardcore there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Phoenix tried to defend her even to the last, and I think she even turns on him and is just like, you can't do anything right, blah 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 blah, and like, reams him out, and then like shows her true face at that point, so that he sees, oh, actually it's not the love of his life is going and it's his fault because he failed. No, actually she was playing you the whole time. And she's like, because basically he thinks they're dating, but she's like, I just wanted the bottle back and you wouldn't give it back to me. Mm-hmm. I kept on trying to get the bottle back from you and you wouldn't give it to me.
So this went on for 8 months. So
and the whole, she was trying to poison Phoenix to get the bottle back. So because that was evidence against her in that trial, and she was trying to get the evidence, so she was trying to kill him to get the bottle back. But then instead, like his buddy, has the cold medicine, because Doug, okay, this is what happened. Doug Swallow, the guy who died, worked in the chem lab. She had dated him previously, and that's where she got the poison from to kill Diego Armando. And that was one instance, but then, she stole more poison at a later date after she wasn't dating that guy anymore. Mm-hmm. And he found out and was going to confront her about it.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to poison Phoenix to get the bottle back, she takes the poison back from Phoenix, like steals the medicine during lunch that day, mm-hmm. and gives it to Doug, who's not feeling well or whatever, to poison him.
Uh-huh.
But before he can take it, there's the power line. So it was an attack of opportunity. And, so she shoved him into there. Phoenix shows up, because Doug is trying to warn Phoenix about
his girlfriend.
Dahlia. Yeah. And then she shoves him, and then Phoenix rolls up right about the time that he's dead. Mm-hmm. And then Dahlia play faints because, it's such a dramatic thing that happened.
Yeah, she's such a delicate flower, not a demon.
Yeah. That's so that was the whole gamut of stuff that was going on in there. But that was actually probably my favorite first episode, first trial in this series.
And head and shoulders. Yeah. Because it has to be an introduction, so it needs to be simpler than the others. There's no investigation portion. But like, as opposed to the others, this actually feels story significant,
Yeah.
Like it's like it plays in. We are kind of introduced to every major character that we're going to see during this. Dahlia, Diego, or like a new introduction to Mia because she factors in more heavily than she did in Justice for All. Yeah, no, it's a thumbs up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
And of course, it's always fun to watch Winston Payne just like lose. Did he lose his hair at the end of this one? Was that when that happened? I seem to remember something like that.
I can't recall if he yanks it out because, like, I know in other ones,
I think it just fell off. I think his hair just fell out. Like, he just made his little face, and then like it fell out. Is I think how it happened.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I got confused because in previous one, and at least one previous one, he was wearing a really bad toupee.
That was the killer in the first one, and the killer gets mad and rips the toupee off and throws it at Phoenix. So that's where that came in.
Gotcha.
So I don't know if I'm dreaming up the Winston Payne thing, but I seem to recall that like he lost his last little head hair on the top of his head during this case.
It's like when Homer finds out that he's going to have kids. You see a montage. Homer and pregnant loses more hair. Homer and pregnant loses more hair. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, so that wraps up case one. Favorite first case of anything. It felt, and they had worked on it intentionally to make the actual tutorial portion more dialogue than, like direct instruction.
Yeah,
and it flows a lot better in this one. Like the how-to flows a lot better, and it's a lot more in line with what's going on because this is her first case, so she's getting instructed on how to do this, coached along.
Yeah.
So, and
also the fact that this takes place in the past isn't just a great way to justify a tutorial, but also this is an origin story for Phoenix, because he tells Mia like, "Oh, you've inspired me. I want to become an attorney." And this game is, after these next two cases, this game is very much concerned with the history of the series.
Yeah. And another aspect that I like about this, the fact that Phoenix, at the end of it, Phoenix in the present day is like, I remember that case because he's sitting there reading the case files from, whatever, sitting in his office and just reading through everything. And, like it gives a more reflective air to Phoenix than you generally have about him because he usually just flies by the seat of his pants, feels like. So having him think about things in kind of a slower kind of considered pace and reflecting back and then having that be a case that you can actually play is a really good choice in my opinion. But those flashbacks happen throughout this game and it works to its advantage. They can't do it all the time, but for the final installment in the series, at least insofar as Shu Takumi is concerned, definitely fits in really well.
Yeah. It's nice to have Phoenix have a speed other than calling everything around him absurd.
Yeah. So case 2 is the stolen turnabout.
Yeah. So. And this isn't a murder case at first.
No, it's not. At first, it is a theft by Mask Damask. So there is the Kurain urn from the town that Maya and Mia and Pearl and all of the other mediums come from. The sacred urn that Pearl broke in whatever game, I think that was the first game that she broke it. That urn is on display in a special like Treasures of Kurain Village or something, just art exhibit by Adrian Andrews, who was from Justice for All.
Yes. Yeah. So the Kurain urn breaking was also from Justice for All, because that's where we went to the village. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Adrian's gotten better. She was a real wreck in Justice for All, and she seems to be putting her life back together.
Yeah, she does. And she's organized and trying to take out insurance and everything on and all of this stuff and hiring security to make sure everything is fine because she's aware of the mask to mask stuff. In fact, she has received a note from Mask to Mask saying that he will come and steal the urn.
Yeah. And this is a messy case. I think primarily because it is kind of two cases in one, by getting the primary the primary defendant, Ron Delight, possibly the only person more dopey than Phoenix in the first case. Uh, which is saying something in a series full of lovable dopes. You go to great lengths to prove that he is not responsible for the theft, that it is impossible because he was over at this other place. It just so happens they discover a murder at the other place that, because of what you laid down, only Ron Delight could have done.
Yeah, and it also is one of those things because this particular installment of the game has a lot of like people fighting against you, like, no, I really am the killer or whatever. like because Phoenix was doing it to Mia in the first episode, and then in this one, Ron Delight is like, no, I am Mask to Mask, because he's a super big. You find out that he's a big fanboy of Mask to Mask, and that he has his entire place of his living quarters just all decked out in just paraphernalia and stuff, and he calls himself Mask to Mask, and he's really just like a security guard.
Yep.
So
yeah, and he's got this he's got this wife, Desiree, who is, like, either, I don't think she's oblivious. I think she's just playing along or indulging him. Is the sense that I think get?
It reads more like she's indulging him. Yeah. She's just like, oh, he gets really excited. Just okay.
Yeah. And during the theft investigation, we also meet a real piece of shit.
Look at me!
Look at me with his Zavari declaration. I still don't know what that's supposed to mean.
It doesn't mean anything. However, in the translation, they were going to change it from Zubari, which is what it was in Japanese, which is basically what they made it translate to.
Uh-huh.
At one point, they were thinking about making it Schwing.
That's the Wayne's World boner sound, Jala.
Yeah. Yeah, they were going to do that at one point. That was something that I read about insofar as the localization was concerned. They were thinking about doing that.
The memes they denied us.
I am still infinitely glad they did not do that thing. Like, no, thank you.
Uh-huh. Keep your sword sheathed, sir. But he shows up, kind of investigating the theft alongside you as this. What does he call himself? An ace investigator or something like that?
Something like that. Yeah. Ace detective, ace investigator. I don't remember.
But he sees himself as the as the Sherlock, and Mask to Mask is his Moriarty.
Mm-hmm. And see, he has been investigating every single Mask to Mask case. So he's been there since the beginning, and he is the expert. And I think it's Maya who points it out, like, if you're such an expert, why didn't you catch him already?
Yeah. It's like that diagram of the, like, oh, all these planes came back, with shots on these particular parts. We need to put we need to put armor over these parts on these planes. And turns out, no, that's actually the places where they can get shot and come back. You need to put armor on the other spots. Luke Abney would be the person I would at least be likely to hire.
Yeah. Well, and there's ample reason for not hiring this fellow, because the resolution of the first section of this case about who is Mask to Mask and who stole the dang thing was Luke. Luke did it because Luke is Mask to Mask. And so he is both his own investigator as well as the culprit. And how Ron comes into any of this at all is that Luke was blackmailing Ron for basically
he hid a piece of evidence in the first in the first theft, I think.
Yeah, but he was blackmailing Ron to get the details about the security so that he could go in.
Yeah.
And do the theft. So like he got his info. His informant was Ron, but Ron was being blackmailed because of something related to the first, because Ron Delight happened to be there also at the same time when the first Mask to Mask robbery occurred. And there's some detail about that he's being blackmailed for. I think you're right. I think he hid some piece of the treasure or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, just
Some nonsense.
yeah. He just he did something dopey like a Rhonda Light would do. But you know, one of the things is, and I like it when the games do this. It's like, oh, this person that you wouldn't expect is in this picture. There's like a news article or a magazine article about the theft of this gem, the Tear of Emanon, which was Mass to Mass first target. And obviously you're going to be paying attention because like Luke Atme is the subject of the photo. You know, he's standing in the foreground looking contemplative or whatever, and there's just a security guard in the back too far away to see his face, and also in a uniform. And you say like, oh yeah, that's where they met. Because that person back there is Ron DeLight, because we know that he is a security officer.
Yep. So then this case progresses when Luke Atme is taken away to be tried for the robbery in a separate courtroom at the same time. But they happen to have also uncovered a body at the security guard office where Ron DeLight happened to be at the time of the theft. So like when Phoenix proved Ron innocent of the theft, he then found out that there was a murder that happened that now Ron DeLight looks to be the only person to have committed that.
A pretty good plan on Luke Atme's part, actually.
Yeah, for sure. Because in the second section of this case, Ron, it is uncovered, is being blackmailed by the owner of the business, the security guard business that he works at. Or no, he's not being blackmailed. He was fired from there by the boss guy because he was found to be stealing secrets from corporations that, like he then sold on the black market for money so that he could fund all of his wife's expensive habits because she spends money like nothing.
You know what?
And
women, they do be shopping. Phoenix Wright, police attorney.
Yeah. And the thing is, the boss was also dipping into those same secrets and selling them himself to get money. So it was both of them doing the same shit. Right. But the boss was like, hey, you can't be doing that. You're competition for me. Also, you're under me and I need to be the one to get the money from this. So he fires Ron, but doesn't uncover the fact that he's doing all of this shady business. So Ron's motive would be like, silencing the boss because he knows the secrets or whatever. Would be the thing.
And in dealing with this, we have to, start looking around the security place. That's where Wendy Oldbag comes back.
Yeah, because she's a security guard now, and she's hanging out in the little security booth.
Yep, and she's dressed like a spaceman.
Yep, and she sits in there alongside our other longtime favorite fellow, Larry Butts.
Yep.
Larry Butts is a security officer who works with Wendy Oldbag.
I think Larry Butts is a little bit more beloved by the fans than Wendy Oldbag is. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. But like a lot of stuff, like a lot of the cases, this ends up turning on falsified video evidence, and the constant trick, which somehow kind of never gets old. However, it's easy, it's fun to poke fun at, which is, the murder happened at a different time and a wildly different location, and the increasingly wild stretches that they make to reconcile those, and like how you get it back. I mean, obviously, like it goes to a crazy degree in Bridge to Turnabout with a body swinging on a pendulum under a flaming bridge. But it turns out Luke Atme could have been over there because all of the evidence that kept him away from the scene of the theft was falsified.
Yeah, and I forget why Ron is wearing the mask to mask costume when he goes into the guy's office? Was it because he wanted courage or something, or what was the reason behind that? I can't remember at
I
all.
can't remember the detail. I think that might have been part of the blackmail, was like, hey, you need to go, you need to go and appear in like in this costume, or like I think he needed to be on
Oh, okay.
camera
Yeah,
in
yeah,
that
yeah.
costume earlier, and then there was no time to change as he as he went over, because there's stuff missing from a safe in the security guy's safe as well, in his office there,
Yeah.
and figuring out who had the knowledge to open it. And I think it was the security, the boss himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and then too, so that's part of where it's like, oh, well, he was in the mask to mask costume. It could be anybody who did this. Well, obviously it's Luke Atme. Well, it couldn't have been Luke Atme because he was busy stealing the urn
hmm
and all this other mess. Well, it boils down to Luke Atme killed this guy, Kane Bullard, but killed him earlier and stuff like left him there in the office. And then when Ron DeLight comes in, he sees the boss dead and panics and stuffs him in the safe, because then like the alarm is going off and whatever, and he's scared, and so stuffs him in the safe. And then that's about the time that like the photo or whatever got taken, because the guy's in the safe and all this other mess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
One of the exculpatory pieces of evidence was, it wasn't that the alarm was going off. He actually hit it. Ron did, I believe.
Okay.
And it was like, okay, why would he hit the alarm if he killed him?
Yeah, something like that. Because I know that Ron was knocked unconscious.
Mhm.
So I don't know. Because there was a lot of question about who hit the alarm, and part of it was, well, Ron couldn't have done it because he was unconscious at the time.
Oh yeah.
And the boss didn't do it because his fingerprints aren't on it. He was already dead by the time that happened. And that's when they introduced somebody else must have done it, and there's no fingerprints. Why not?
Yeah.
So I think that's what happened there.
Y-
And the thing is I think the reason why Luke killed the boss guy is because the boss guy found out that Luke was the mask to mask guy.
Mm.
And so the blackmail letter that was sent from the boss was supposed to be for like Luke Atme, but ends up in Ron DeLight's possession or something like that. Some weirdness like that, where Ron mistakenly thinks that he's supposed to be going up there to do stuff, I think is how that works. I don't remember exactly. It's weird and lots of twisty turns. This is just a very long case.
Yes. Yeah. You know what? I was confused. A third person did hit the buzzer. And my cursory searches do not point out who it might have been. It could have been Larry Butts.
Larry wasn't there, is
Yeah,
what I remember.
that's
Larry
true.
wasn't in the security office, and that's like Ron DeLight knew that Larry wasn't in the security office at that time, because wasn't he returning the wallet to Desiree?
He was returning the wallet because he found it at the at the museum. I feel bad for not having like a precise beat on who did this.
This is such a twist. Every time we do these games on this show, it's like, what was going on? Oh no, it was like this. And then like we end up having to go back through and piece together just like we're playing the game in real time.
Yeah, it's just like it's kind of the structure of the game. The things are one way, then they're another way, then they're another way, and then they're back to being the way they seemed at first, but with one detail different. Because these are these mysteries are ultimately end up being really mechanical. As opposed to being about like motive or character, kind of stuff. Like obviously those broad things end up, supporting, but like it's almost like these are like Rube Goldberg machines that are set up and then have and then like people are incidental to what's going on with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the what I remember of the end of this case is that Luke Atme decided that he was going to plead guilty to the charge of the theft because that would give him a more lenient sentence than the charge of murder.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was trying to frame Ron Delight for the murder and the theft, and then whichever one failed, like, and kind of go from there, but I believe that the reason why the boss got knocked off by Luke is because he found out that Luke was mask to mask, because he's a security. His job is security. So he found, hey, there's this pattern, where somehow this guy does this stuff, but then, this investigator guy happens to do, whatever. And so he pieced it together and figured that out. And he had fired Ron previously for the stealing the information about the companies and everything. But I don't think that he wanted anything more to do with Ron after that. He just released Ron from service. And then that only comes into play as the motive for Ron, theoretically, to have come to kill the boss. But he's such a goofy guy. There's no way he was going to kill anybody.
Yeah.
So
what's funny about this, in the credits at the end, you get like little epilogues, the individual characters talking to the camera, kind of explaining like, hey, here's kind of what's happened after, like since the game. Ron and Desi, they start with they say like, oh, we're going to be the good guys, we're going to be the ultimate crime fighters. We have all this knowledge of, how to do corporate espionage and what have you. We're going to help corporations figure out how to not get mask to mask or Ron delighted, they turn in states, trying to turn good like Ant-Man or whatever. However, they say, and for a little bit of side money, we sometimes sell the secrets to criminals too. And Ron's like, sometimes I think we're the worst criminals. Oh God. Which for Ron and Desiree, it's kind of like, oh yeah, you can get away with crime if you're dopey enough. Nobody will suspect you. Yeah.
So I think that kind of wraps up case 2. It's a tangled mess.
It is. One detail that we didn't talk about though is the prosecution in this, because
we didn't talk. That's important.
Yeah, because this game's prosecutor, the prosecutor ends up kind of being the main antagonist for most of these games. We are introduced to Godot.
Coffee drinking, wild white haired, visor wearing fella.
Metaphor speaking.
Who really, really hates Phoenix and is like, Phoenix, you're going down. And Phoenix is like, I don't know who you are. Who are you? What is going on? Why do you hate me?
Yeah. So the visor is obviously like a goofy character design kind of thing, but as soon as the next case recipe, we're going to find out that it alters his perception in certain meaningful ways. But it's primarily there to give him a bit of a visual gimmick, I think. What's your what's your read on Godot? Because I know that the prosecutors get under your skin in these games.
Oh, I hate him.
Okay,
I hate him. I don't like him at all. I hate him so much. And then like it's worse when you learn more about him later on, as we do. I hate him there too.
Okay,
I hate him just flatly all the way.
He's too he's too verbose for me.
Yeah, the only prosecutor that I like is Winston Payne.
Not even Miles. Okay, yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess. Yeah. I don't know. Like, he goes through phases. It depends on what Miles you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. I think that we can both agree on Francisca being just the pits. But Godot, I think for a lot of people is redeemed because of his ultimate motivations that come out. It's his whole
which are gooby and like, I'm sorry,
it's a little much.
Well, in his whole shtick, like when you learn more about him from the before he was a prosecutor times, and like when you learn all of that, like just his way of acting and his attitude and everything just does not jive with me at all. No. It's like, oh, super sexist, I hate you. No.
Yeah, no. And calling everybody kitten. No, thank you.
Yes.
No, thank you, sir.
Yeah, I was like, oh, come on. And he's like, come on, sharpen your claws. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah. I think I had
Yeah.
more affection for him in the past, maybe when I was a little bit more, kind of like oblivious to that kind of language, let's say.
Well, I mean, everybody there would have been a time where I would have thought that he was fine
Yeah.
back in the day,
Yeah.
but like that time is long past. Like I've recently been discovering when I've been rewatching stuff for my podcast, Jolly John's Place. Like I just recently rewatched Who Framed Roger Rabbit
Oh
for
boy.
that, and just as a brief aside,
Okay.
and so I expected to really like that movie a lot more watching it now because I remembered a lot of good things about it.
Mhm.
But then when I watched it, I was like, this is real meh. But like, it's technically speaking and like pacing and all these other things, it's exceptional.
Mhm.
But there's just some ways in which like I don't care. I don't like it. But you wouldn't know if you listened to that episode of my show because I had two people that were very glowing and happy about that show on there. So um, but yeah, like I went back and I'm like, yeah, I don't actually know, and it's just the differences. It's kind of like I've also been watching the Netflix Castlevania and I was like, oh wow, no, this is terrible. But like,
it's not very good.
If I watched it in 2017, I would have been nicer about it. I would have liked it a little bit more than I actually do looking at it for the first time in 2022 going on 2023.
Yeah.
So I mean, like that, all of that being said, I know that's a long aside, but the whole point of me saying that is, it's 100% valid for you to, at one point in the time, thinking, yeah, this dude was fine. I like this character quite a bit or whatever. And then you go back and go, oh, actually, that's pretty bad.
Yeah. I mean, like, you shouldn't set aside the sexism, but but setting it aside for even a moment or looking past it, let's say, like I think in the past I also maybe had more patience for the verbosity. Like I think the coffee metaphors and the that's my rule kind of thing was a little bit more. First time I played this was like it's like early college, okay. Which, I'm still a kid. Like I was like 19 years old or something. Yeah. I think also I just a little bit more appreciation for the melodrama and the fact that, he turns out to be a good guy all along. I think, okay, there's that, but also he could have spoken to anybody about it.
Yep, and it's just that whole conceit that just gets real old over time, where it's like, if anybody talked to anybody else, like if Phoenix went up to him, said, "Hey, bro, are you okay?"
Yeah.
Like, all it took is one person to talk to the other person for all of these issues to be, at least starting to be resolved, and unpacked.
Yeah.
So
it's a having your cake and eating it too kind of thing as well. So like we need to have him be mysterious and antagonistic and to speak in all of these kind of tortured metaphors all the way up until he doesn't, and then it turns around and suddenly it's pathos. Yeah. I don't know. It's a weird way to tell a story, which is to treat the character itself solely as a medium for like how you want the player to feel, as opposed to just like outlining them as a person and having them make decisions rationally in the moment. Right.
I would have felt more for that character and liked him some if I had been able to play or even just see a little clip of stuff through his eyes for just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just how they have in this game, you have a place where you are playing as Edgeworth, and that, made Edgeworth a better character in my eyes.
Yes.
And if they had done that with Godot, even just a little bit in a flashback or something, they could have done that and just have like a little bit of him narrating what he was doing, but like with more of a flashback feel rather than like third person narrative talking about this thing separate, disembodied.
Yeah,
that would have made a little bit more of a difference. But pouring out his heart at the very end of this thing just did not do it for me. I'm like,
as he cries blood.
All right, that's a lot. I mean, okay, you know. I mean, like, in terms of Phoenix Wright characters, he looks and, you know, acts cooler than a lot of them.
Uh-huh.
So, like, if I had played it, 20 years ago when it first came out or whatever,
Right.
you know, my feelings about him probably would have been different than they are, you know, playing it in 2022 for the first time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's kind of rough stuff. I mean, it's probably worth saying, since we're past the spoiler wall, he is Diego Armando, the person who was poisoned in the flashback case there. We're gonna get a little bit more about that in case number 4. I had no idea what he was almost named. Like, Diego Armando is that's a human's name.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. But characters in Ace Attorney don't have human names. They have puns based on their one character trait.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, when I was looking at the stuff about the localization, they almost called him Joseph Cuppa. Xavier Barstucks.
Oh, the Connecticut Barstucks?
Or William Havamug.
William Havamug is somehow the least, like, dumb of those to me.
Yeah, they're all bad, but I'm glad that they didn't call him any of those. Although it's also ridiculous because they call him Diego Armando, which is just like two first names.
Yeah. Well, hey.
I mean, people have that. You know?
I have
John Henry or whatever. I mean, you know,
I have 3 first names. Jala.
3 first names. Hey, well, okay, Cole. I've never met somebody with a first name Ross. So.
Oh yeah.
So like that didn't immediately register for me.
Famously in Friends, there's a Ross.
I don't watch Friends. Do you think I've never watched Friends?
My grandpa's name was Ross. Not.
I didn't meet your grandpa. So.
Oh man.
So was your grandfather's last name also Ross?
No,
so it was Ross.
No, it was on my mom's side. So
okay.
kind of strange.
You almost made my day by telling me that your grandfather's name was Ross.
I don't know that his parents would have been that cruel. My understanding was that his parents were delightful people, farmers up in Michigan. So. Oh, I think his grandma ran a pharmacy. Actually, my brother
cool.
has a sign from there.
Neat.
Yeah. Well, that's a little bit of a digression, but yes, Diego Armando is 2 first names, but also that is plausibly a human name. Yeah.
Besides which, you're allowed your digression because I wandered off into talking about random crap I was watching and getting mad at. Like I saved the live tweets about Castlevania. That's actually in my Discord. Oh, yeah. So like all the people in my Discord, you know, I even got so mad at one point that I was like, I'm going into the voice channel if anybody wants to hear me complain. I am in the voice channel complaining right now. Yeah. So.
Jeez. Yeah. No, that's we did that. We did the Castlevania on adaptation. We did the first season of Castlevania on Adaptation Decay.
The first one's better than the other one.
Okay, good.
So
we didn't care for it. So.
Oh my God. It's just that Warren Ellis just does one character, and it's his one character that he does for everybody. And every single character, you know, like all the characters, like, okay, there's no reason for Alucard to act that way. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm going to just stop now. If anyone wants to talk to me about the Castlevania Netflix series, feel free to at me. I will leave it out of this Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney.
There is a time and a place for
There's a time and a place. This is not that one.
No. I was going to take us back into it. There's a time and a place for a Spider Jerusalem, and that is in Transmetropolitan. We don't need everybody in that series to be him.
No. Okay, so case number 3, recipe for turnabout. This is where we get Maggie Bird again.
Yeah, back on the stand.
Yeah, back on the stand again because people keep on thinking she kills people. And she's just like, I'm just living my life. Why can't I just have a life?
I'm just incredibly unlucky.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So she is working in a French restaurant. And the victim in this case, she's a waitress at this restaurant. And the victim in this case is one Glenn Elg, who happens to be like a computer techie guy, and he has died by poisoning in his drink. And the poison bottle was found in Maggie's apron.
Yeah. And she conveniently was unconscious shortly after this person, this victim Glenn, passed away, because she was shocked at seeing this, and so that was ultimately the actual killers banked on that to frame her.
Yep. Because of course Maggie didn't do it, because Maggie never does it. She's just trying to live her dang life.
Yeah.
Leave this poor lady alone.
Yeah.
So
they were trying to pin the motivation on her because Glenn Elg is a huge gambling addict, and he was sitting there at the table listening to the radio with a bunch of lottery tickets in front of him, and he apparently struck the jackpot, won $1.5 million.
Yep, he struck the jackpot, and he was there for some kind of a meeting with somebody for like a mixtape or something.
Yeah, MC Bomber, the hottest beats fresh off the streets.
Yeah, so multi-talented individual there. So anyway, when you are going, this particular installment is the one that was supposed to have been In Justice for All,
right,
and ended up not.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the main character that you end up interacting with in the investigation sections is one Gene Armstrong. So this character presented a lot of challenge for the localization team, because he's portrayed as an Okama character, which at the time of this game's development was basically this Okama meant a general word for an effeminate man, usually implying that he's gay, but also used for biologically male people who do drag or speak like women, regardless of what their sexuality or gender identity happens to be, and also including trans women. So they had only this idea, okay, this is a gay guy. How do we localize him in a way that makes sense for people in the US? And one of the people who was working on this, one Mrs. Sue, looked through all the information that in the game about Gene and came to the conclusion that he is a gay cis man who likes to perform non-passing drag.
Yeah.
And in 2014, there was some kind of an interview with Sue, and she said that she still thought that Gene caused confusion because the general public had a less informed and nuanced understanding of gender and sexuality at the time of the game's release. Like back then, in 2007, 2008, there weren't a whole lot of people in the mainstream at all talking about something like non-binary or any other kinds of places on the gender spectrum which do not fall. So like Gene, one of the running things that happens that I think is supposed to be a gag is that they're like, oh, this woman, and then they're like, it's a man or whatever. And it's really kind of weird coming to it in 2022, but like they were trying to do their best with trying to make it make some kind of sense to people in 2008.
And also not be like ghoulishly hateful. Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually really, really love Gene Armstrong as a character. Like I absolutely adore this character, and I just want to just give him a hug. I just like him. He's just cute.
He's got he's got a rough go of it. He's got this restaurant, but it's not very good. Like he's in debt, but has this really sunny attitude. His primary passion is aromatherapy, so he's constantly giving out little bottles of stuff to people. Yeah. I ended up being a little bit confused, so I had no idea about the kind of the Okama character type, or just general phrase, right? That kind of concept. I was confused because at a couple of points, Gene refers to himself as a woman. He will say, "Oh, this woman," or something like that. So it's not even just like gender confusion on other people's parts. It's also like self-referential. So it's like, to me, like this just kind of read with a lack of certainty on any other axis. I just kind of read Jane as being French. Like, oh, like nothing else matters about this guy except he is a real Francophile. because he speaks in this extremely exaggerated kind of French patois, French accent. You know, you get the Z's instead of these and Zoutalor and all that.
Yeah, and that kind of registered over to me, but it's also kind of what complicates it for me is that I happen to know an assigned male at birth, non-binary person that Jean reminds me of in some ways,
Mm-hmm.
just like in certain ways only. I mean, like obviously Jean as a character, being a Phoenix Wright character, is very
It's not a human.
turned up
Yeah.
and over the top and everything, but it just reminds me of a friend of mine.
Uh-huh.
So I feel weird and uncomfortable calling Jean he, but because like I think of Jean as being non-binary in my head.
Yeah.
So but the thing is that when it comes to the language of Japanese, you're not underlining, like there isn't like you're not underlining your self identity with like a specific word that means male. Like there's different ways of addressing yourself and addressing other people, some of which are typified female. But if you are using feminine speech, but still identify as a man, you just have an effeminate way of talking, that still works. So like the language coming from Japan makes it complicated to try to localize.
Yeah.
So they were just doing something.
Mm-hmm.
So I it's not really even indicative of what that character is like in Japanese even.
Right.
So
I don't envy
either way, I love that character either way, and it's probably because it just reminds me of a friend of mine.
Oh yeah.
I'm just like I love this character. I love Jean. And so just that anytime that he gets the spotlight for a little bit, I just was smiling the whole time because I just think he's adorable.
Even though he does end up being an accessory,
Yes,
to the murder.
He end up being an accessory to murder, but that's because he was blackmailed.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, or whatever. Not black. Well, yeah, I guess he was being blackmailed.
It was an alternate repayment for debt services, for financing rendered. Let's say.
Yeah, because we got the tender lender involved, which has a loan shark, and that guy happens to be involved in everything. Why did the loan shark dress as Phoenix in the beginning? I don't know.
It was part of his plan. So part of framing Maggie was also just like, okay, she can't actually have competent defense because, you know, anybody who has two eyes can see through this. So I will represent myself to Maggie as Phoenix, somebody that she knows and trusts, in order to get in there and throw the trial. And that's how Phoenix finds out about this. He sees a news article, Ace Attorney Phoenix Wright loses first case or whatever. He's like, wait a minute, no, I didn't. There's an imposter. That stands to a certain amount of like within this cartoonish universe kind of reason. Then you see Furio T. Gray, and he is a demon. He's got he has just like devil red skin. He wears I imagine he is styled as like a Yakuza kind of guy. You know, he's got the ostentatious shirt with a tiger biting on. What does his shirt show? It is a tiger killing a crocodile. And just in the American version, he's kind of characterized as like a New Jersey or Brooklyn mobster, right? You know, a lot of and talk about this, you know, kind of deal that kind of broken English affect to it, and it's just kind of like hand waved as a joke. Phineas is like, people really thought this guy was me. Yeah,
there were a lot of. I think they were supposed to be jokes that didn't land in this one for me.
Yeah.
But like I didn't get like a super sour overall feeling on this one like I did with certain other cases which shall not be named. Not in this title. So
yeah. There was a witness to this, Victor Kudo, who hangs out in Vitamin Park.
Yeah.
I love Vitamin Park. It's a playground that is themed after healthy foods.
Yeah. It's very cute, but what's not cute, what makes me mildly upset. There's multiple things about Victor Kudo that make me very upset. So one of those things is the fact that he has a little thing of natto and he's eating natto, but like because they can't ever have anything actually Japanese in this game.
Eat your donuts, Phoenix.
Yeah. They called it bird seed, and his whole thing is talking about, he's eating the bird seed. Oh my God. Oh, he's throwing the bird seed because he's throwing natto at people and stuff. But then also he's got this big red nose that's like drippy, and he just keeps on bonking it and it wiggles, and it's just upsetting. So
yeah, I wasn't aware that was a I didn't know what natto was because I am uncultured.
Well, then I guess it's a good thing that they called it birdseed, but it drove me and Dave nuts. We were watching it like, playing through the game and just like, it's natto. It's natto. Dave loves natto. He eats it and, he enjoys it. So it's like, okay.
Yeah. But it turns out, through deduction and through pressing, that the events that Victor saw were staged for him. It was not the actual time, of the murder, because you find out through kind of investigating that the thing he was listening to was a it was like a lottery number announcement that takes place for 10 minutes at 1:30 p.m. and Victor was in there way later. There were also inconsistencies because Glenn had pierced his eardrum, and that was not picked up by Furio Tigre. God, sorry, that was not picked up by the imposter who played as him, the master of disguise. And so it was pointed out, like, oh yeah, he was listening to it in his right ear, but that couldn't be the case because he had a punctured eardrum. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what ended up happening is, yes, he was poisoned, but he was poisoned by Gene. Wasn't Gene the one who put the cyanide in there, or was it just the cyanide came from Gene? I don't remember which.
I think that, or was I don't remember that particular detail, which is crazy because I played this case like 3 days ago. I think it was Furio who did the poisoning, because he was there to meet with to meet with them.
I think Gene hid the original bottle that was used, and they planted something else on Maggie. And I think because they found the bottle in Gene's aromatherapy bottles. So
what they found in the aromatherapy bottles was actually the medicine bottle for Glenn's ear.
Okay, so then the bottles were switched. And that was Gene's part. It wasn't the actual poisoning. It was that, or maybe it was slipping the cyanide bottle into Maggie's apron or something. I think that maybe he did that too.
Yeah, I think it was.
It's something mild. It's something like just a sleight of hand that he was involved in.
Yeah, I think Gene was involved in the mostly in the cover up that happened, and so Gene was the one who helped switch the bottles and also plant the bottle on Maggie.
So why did Furio Tigre want all this money? Well, what was he after? Was he after because everybody assumes it's the lottery ticket. But what you find out is that this Glenn Elg guy had like this what was it, a virus program on that disc?
Yeah, he had a side hustle because he worked at this comically futuristic, like THX 1130 something or whatever computer firm. Was a genius programmer over there, and he had a side hustle developing viruses and selling them on the black market for millions of dollars.
Yeah, and so he was trying to make a deal for one of these programs that was in his MC Bomber, disc that everybody thought was just like a mixtape. And he had the winning lottery ticket conveniently at the same time that he had this disc. And so Furio Tigre actually was after the disc because the disc is worth way more than the money on the lottery ticket. And why did this particular guy need this? I mean, yes, he is a loan shark. Yes, he's out to make lots of money. But it gets more complicated than that with the character of Violetta, this creepy head bandage wearing lady.
It's Wednesday Addams with head trauma.
Yeah.
who happens to be the granddaughter of the famous crime boss. Oh gosh, what is his actual name? It's Bruto, Bruto Cadaverini. Tigre hit her car, or like drove in front of her on his scooter. We get to see his scooter with its cracked wheel well, and she got injured, and the medical costs ended up really adding up. So Tigre, kind of this small-time operator, ended up in Hawk to, the prevailing crime family, by injuring this lady.
Yeah. And so he worries himself sick over her well-being, and doesn't he end up forming like some kind of bond with her because he would visit her all the time, every day, and all this other stuff.
I mean, they end up like dating, kinda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like, I think on Furio's part, that was mostly because if he got in good with her, then maybe he wouldn't get killed.
Yeah.
And but he still owed money and needed to have like $1 million by X date, or else,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where that came in, where he was trying to get that, Mad MC Bomber program so that he could get that money quick.
Yes, and get himself out of a retribution murder. I like the end of this. Case, because it's, Phoenix Wright exists primarily, by the seat of his pants in these trials. It's even pointed out by Godot, like, oh, you have no idea what's happening, but somehow you still just manage to fall ass backwards into whatever you need. He's not really a schemer, but he ends up pulling a cane mutiny on Tigre. Because like this bottle of the medicine, it was found outside of its prescription bag, back in the back in the kitchen, and Phoenix says, hey, this little green bottle, this is what you used, this is where the poison was. And Tigre, who has spent this entire time saying like, oh, I don't know nothing about anything, what are you talking about? He says, no, the cyanide was in a small brown bottle, you dummy.
Yeah. And just because this guy gets worked up so quickly and so easily and has like a hair trigger response to everything, that works, that works with his character. And yeah, he sure does. And then he's like, when he figures out what happens and he has his, furious meltdown, it's pretty good.
Oh, a little green bottle. What kind of sick joke is this? We can't. Your chicanery. Oh man, it's the one of the most purely Saul Goodman things that that Phoenix does. Is this little bit of deception, and he even says like, oh, just phony evidence befitting you, a phony lawyer, who attempted to smear my name. And I was like, hey, dude, that's still falsifying evidence. Good, maybe.
Yeah.
That's, it might not be against the law. It's not good behavior, let's say. Oh man.
And one thing we didn't mention about Victor Kudo, who is the male version of Windy Oldbag. Yes, he rambles off about a lot of different stuff, but he's also just like, oh yeah, I go to that terrible, terrible restaurant all the time to go see the waitress because she's cute or whatever. And it's like,
he has a thing.
He's like the director hottie or whatever.
Yeah, he's a lech. Yeah, he's like a Master Roshi kind of guy.
Yeah.
One thing that is kind of like laid out here, which is, even though this case was meant for justice for all, this is a detail that feels like it was added to foreshadow or establish something about Godot. One of the pieces of evidence is Maggie's apron from the aforementioned uniform that Kudo was all about. There is a brown stain of coffee on it. But there is also a big red stain that people initially think is a blood stain. But it's just ketchup. What ketchup is doing in a French restaurant, I have no idea. But Godot cannot see it. When he points it out, he's using it as evidence, for the fact that Maggie was the person who delivered the coffee that killed. She's got the stain on her, but he cannot discern the big red blood stain. And nobody ever is like, are you kidding us? Are like, because the red stain is bigger than the other one, and also it's plausibly blood.
And so at first Phoenix is like, what's he playing at? Like, he thinks that it's some kind of ploy, that Godot is leading him on or something, and all this other stuff, but he really cannot see it.
Yes. He's like he's like Kramer when the Kenny Rogers was put in across from his apartment. And the big red neon sign flooded his entire apartment to the point where it drove him crazy. He walks into Jerry's apartment, pulls out what he thinks is milk to drink from the jug, and it's actually tomato juice because he can no longer discern white from red. Oh, there are people out there who appreciate that comparison.
Well, I mean, if I knew the reference, it would be.
Yes, yeah.
Other people will be like, Jala. Anyway,
I forget that you don't have the 90s TV catalog. Watch different shows. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and this takes us to another. Did you have anything else to say about case 3?
No.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to say. Although I do hope that Maggie Bird does not have any more incidents.
I forget if she shows up in the second trilogy.
No idea. I guess I'll find out when I get there, and then I'll live tweet about it when I find out.
Let's talk about number 4, which is Turnabout Beginnings. Phoenix is researching an older case. He's in the hospital, and he is looking into files about Mia's first case.
So this is another one where Mia is the defense attorney.
Yes. Yeah. And instead of having Grossman as the second chair in this, she has Diego Armando as kind of the backup there in her booth as it goes. And this is, hammering home like, yes, this, Diego and Godot are the same person.
Yeah. And also your prosecutor is Miles Edgeworth. This is his first case. So in this one, she is defending one Terry Falls, who is like super in, convict clothes and stuff because he had been convicted, earlier for something and then had escaped and allegedly murdered one Valerie Hawthorne. Hawthorne, I've heard that name before.
Wait a minute. Terry bugs me. Because again, he is portrayed as like much less human than any other like caricature that we've seen. He's presented kind of like it's like a prisoner would be presented in a Tintin comic. Like he's wearing the striped pajamas. He's in a ball and chain. He speaks like a caveman Hulk. Me no do it. I didn't do it. It's real like, and also should be noted was dating a 14-year-old as a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Calls her his teenage angel.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what he should have been locked up for. Just gonna put that out there. All this other stuff kind of seems incidental to that.
Yeah. So he's actually on death row for what occurred previously. So like he was already on death row and then escaped and then was convicted of murder again. How does that even work?
Yeah, so he was on death row for the event that took place 5 years before. This is when Dahlia was 14, because he was involved in this plot. Initially it looks like a kidnapping, but Dahlia is in on it because Dahlia is the worst person. But there was this big standoff at the bridge.
It was kidnapping. It was kidnapping. He was framed for kidnapping Dahlia and also like a theft, a jewel theft.
Yeah, it was like a ransom thing. Like, hey, bring us this bring this $2 million jewel, and I will hand her over. the person sent out to respond to it, I think, was Valerie. And at that case, she fired, hit him in the arm, and what everybody said and why he was on death row was that he pushed Dahlia over the side and into the river to kill her. But that could not have plausibly happened.
Yeah, and also they never found the body.
Yep.
So, they say it's because the river rapids are so strong and all this other mess, but
Yeah.
They never did find Dahlia's body, and they also didn't find the jewel because the jewel went over the edge with Dahlia, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She had it on her, and that was part of the play.
Yeah, so that happened, and then here comes a scene on the bridge with Valerie and the inmate many, many years later,
Mm-hmm.
and then Valerie ends up getting stabbed in the back with a knife.
Yep. Getting stabbed there on this rickety bridge, captured in a photo by one Melissa Foster.
Melissa Foster, who looks suspiciously like Dahlia Hawthorne.
Yeah, same red hair, same butterflies going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but was captured in a photo that seems to have Terry dead to rights.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about this case?
I mean, it's incredibly short. There's no investigation. This really does feel like it is just establishing Dahlia. And it feels like this is all about Dahlia in order to make some of the let's say revelations in case number 5 kind of pop. So I feel like it is laying necessary track.
Mm-hmm.
But it ends up feeling like a little contrived. I think that this falls apart because they really fumble the ball with Terry as a defendant.
Yeah, and just like with Phoenix, Terry is echoing Phoenix's head over heels for Dahlia, do anything for her bit, because at the end of this, like it's Phoenix is doing a good job of defending Terry and starting to prove Terry innocent when he's going to go and testify, happens to take poison.
Mm-hmm.
And kill himself, or not Phoenix, sorry. Mia, it's Mia in this one. Mia is doing a good job of defending Terry, and he pulls a Phoenix. So this is just like, I'm sure if I were Mia at this point, I'd be like tearing my hair out, because it's like every single guy, what is wrong with you? Well, with this Dahlia Hawthorne person.
Yeah, like so, it gets around, and it becomes less about less about him wanting to protect her. He is so thoroughly under her spell that they had this little suicide pact, like, we're so in love that we can never trust each other, we can't go on living, so just take this necklace that we both have and drink the contents, it will kill us so we can go on. Because Terry, over the course of Mia establishing that yes, it was Dahlia who did the stabbing, but then set up an alternate crime scene, doing the Ace Attorney trick, and kind of showed up on the bridge in disguise as her stepsister there, was putting, was trying to frame Terry for the killing that she had committed, 30 minutes or so before.
Yeah. And because Terry can no longer testify and takes poison, the trial is, a wash. And that frees Dahlia from this conviction where she killed her own sister. And the reason why they were involved in this whole thing in the beginning is because Dahlia and her sister wanted to get this jewel from their parents and get all this money from their parents. And, that's what they first set up the original setup, the whole scenario on the bridge the first time around. Dahlia ends up taking the jewel and going into the water, but she survives and has the jewel in her possession, so that she has money. And when it comes around to like the second time, she ends up wanting to take out her sister so she could have all the money or something like that. She wanted to take out her sister, and she wanted to frame Terry for it again since he was already on death row.
Yeah, Valerie was going to expose her, is what it was.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a note because Dahlia had reached out, and had called. Valerie kind of like left a memo for herself about the time for the meeting on the bridge, and also just like wrote down tell Dahlia that the truth's going to come out once and for all. Which is not something you write in this universe because it means you're going to die the next day. It is more dangerous than saying you're about to retire.
Yeah, for sure. So that was the reasoning behind what all was going on with that case. But at the end of this case, when Dahlia is freed, she finds out that Diego Armando is basically looking into her because she's real sus. And so she ends up using the same poison trick and poisons Diego with in his coffee right after that trial. That's when she comes across Phoenix and gives him the bottle that had the poison in it, and starting that whole mess.
Yeah, and ensuring that Phoenix would get involved in the case and become an attorney, thus making sure the entire trilogy would happen.
Yep. So, I mean, like, as much as this trial is a weird one in the middle of, the game, because it doesn't have investigation and all of that, it also is really a critical point as well for the fact that, like, this is the exact reason why this game even exists is because of this moment.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, we're past the spoiler wall, but case 5 being about how Dahlia is related to the Fae clan. That is a crazy reveal that I completely forgot happened. I remembered Bridge to Turnabout being especially good, and being like a good payoff, but like knowing how connected all of this was, like having all that be connected, it is a particular kind of enjoyment you can get out of an intricate story being wrapped up patly.
Yeah. Well, and then just the way that ends up unfolding just feels so accurate to the way that this series paces itself out.
Yeah.
And, outlines itself. So, that felt like a good cap on the trilogy for sure, because that kind of takes everything back full circle,
Yeah. Let's talk about Bridge to Turnabout. Because anytime Phoenix, Maya, and Pearl Pearls rather. Pearl's an old lady name. Pearl is an old lady name. Pearls is the little kid here. Anytime they go to a mystic location for some kind of retreat or enrichment, somebody gonna die.
Yeah, definitely. Somebody gonna die. In this case, the person who dies at first seems to be just a children's author. Yeah. Okay. Elise Donim.
Donim, like pseudonym.
So that's who you think the victim is at first. But really
ends up being a little bit more complicated because this leans so hard into the mechanics of spirit channeling.
Yeah, it does for sure. So this takes place at a retreat, like a mountain retreat where Maya and Pearls are going to just like train their spiritual power. And then they're like, Phoenix, you're going with us. And he's like, why? Well, because wasn't it like they needed somebody to drive the car, or they had to have somebody over a certain age or something?
Somebody over 20 needed to be there with them. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So he's chaperoning because reasons.
The plot demands it.
Yeah, the plot demands that he shows up there. So he is there. And so they go and they come across Sister Bikini, who is this portly little, older lady.
Yeah. She's 48. That is not an old lady. That is not as old as this lady is portrayed as.
Oh, yeah. Well, for Japan, she looks pretty good.
Yeah,
I mean, they have a 30-something-year-old and they've got completely white hair.
Yeah. Oron from Final Fantasy X is 35.
I know, he's 35. What is up?
I turned 35 this year. Right? I'm nowhere near Oron. Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, okay, well, where's your gigantic sword? Come on, you're
Yeah.
lagging behind. So
Yeah. I
anyway,
love Sister Bikini. She's so good.
yeah, I like her because like she's just got such a fun attitude. And like when she's on the stand testifying, they have to get her a box, like a crate to stand on because she's so short that you can't see her.
Yeah. She's got spunk, you know.
Yeah.
She's good. She's real she's good.
Yeah, she's real sassy. I like her. But so you get introduced to Sister Bikini, who's very, very cheerful. And then you also come across Elise, who is a children's author who carries a staff and has like super mystical look about her. But she's just a children's author, everyone, at this spiritual retreat place.
She's portrayed as an angel who is on Earth. You know, she like immediately Pearls is a big fan and is immediately just like the most gracious person. Like, oh, let's go, let's go read. Let's talk about stuff. Like, kind of takes her off on her own. Makes a little bit more sense when you know who she actually is. But just like anybody who is this outright good also has to die.
Oh yeah, for sure. And something that makes Phoenix do a double take is he sees this picture, but like before they even go, he sees this picture of one of the acolytes at this place who looks suspiciously like Dahlia Hawthorne.
Yeah.
And he's like, Dolly. And so he has to go and figure out, like, part of the reason why he's like, okay, maybe I'll go ahead and go is because, he sees this lady and he's like, hey, I need to go see what's up here.
Yeah, he's real wrapped around the axle on Dahlia still. Because it was traumatic. Like this person tried to get him killed, and he thought that he thought that they were in love, So finding out what the deal with Iris is, and Iris plays coy for the majority of this until we learn what's actually going on, because it can't be a convoluted mystery if there are not twins involved.
Yeah. Because at least Iris doesn't have, or does she have the butterflies? I don't remember her.
I don't recall her having the butterflies.
Okay, good. Yeah. So, but Iris otherwise looks, for all intents and purposes, like Dahlia and is blushy and innocent like Dahlia and all of that. But she says, "I've lived here in this retreat place for like ever."
Yeah.
I've been here for years and years and years, and I don't know what men look like. Oh my God, you're a man, blush. And so that's the whole setup, where that's making Phoenix kind of like pitter patter in his little heart, because, he's falling for this person who looks just like Dahlia, but is really sweet and whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, they're there and everything seems to be going fine. Maya is taken across this rickety bridge, which like it's the bridge from the previous case, right?
It is not.
It's the land around it is exactly the same.
But it's not supposed to be the same bridge.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I just
well, either way, I mean, like, it's another rickety dang bridge and another dang situation, where there's some issue having to do with the bridge.
Yeah.
So yeah, she goes over for some spiritual training to a separate facility that is across this rickety bridge. And when they, go through with all of that, the bridge ends up collapsing.
Ends up catching fire. Because lightning strikes it. Yeah.
Catching fire and then collapses. So, while they're over there across the bridge. And so they're trying to like, there's no other way across. There's like a big chasm. This is up in the mountains somewhere.
Yeah, it's effectively isolated over there.
And so as a result, like, it takes some time to get across, to get over there, to figure out what's going on. And is Maya okay? There's not heat over there. So, like, Phoenix is worried that she will just literally die of cold.
Yeah, because she's down in this cave. There are earthquakes and stuff going on. It's she doesn't come, she doesn't come out. Well, I guess she does come out pretty soon because of things that we learn. Effectively, what we can discern is that she is stuck over there until the last day of the trial.
Yeah. And what makes this like ramped up to critical levels is that the Elise Dunim ends up being found dead in the courtyard, stabbed in the back with this gigantic sword.
Yeah, the Shichishito, the 7-pointed sword that factored in a little bit in the stolen case. It's it was part of a statue for Amy Faye, the progenitor of the Faye clan and the Korean kind of channeling deal. Sister Bikini spots what appears to be Iris pulling the blade out of Elise's back, making this one of the more brutal kills. Because imagine getting stabbed with one of those things, you know. And it seems like Iris is dead to rights, but she insists that she didn't do it.
Yeah. And so there's like tracks from the snowmobile to the bridge and back. There's other factors involved, like Larry Butts is there because he was learning art from this Elise Donim person. And
he changes his name to Loris or Loris Donim.
Loris. Yeah.
What an asshole.
Yeah. And so there's that. There's the fact that Elise was supposed to meet up with Pearls and, go read books together, but then Pearls never showed up. But then Pearls was seen by Loris and all kinds of stuff. So, like, there's a whole bunch of question marks of what's going on here.
Yeah. And as the timeline of events starts getting kind of sketched out, it becomes apparent that Iris being on this side of the being on this side of the bridge after it was on fire is not plausible because of the sequence of events. Because we discover on the other side that the murder took place in this garden. And this is put together by Loris, kind of seeing the moment that the bridge caught on fire, and sketching it out and showing what appears to be a body, a person flying over top of the bridge.
Yeah, and everybody thinks that he's just being a goober because he's a goober all the time. And he's like, no, I drew it accurate to what I saw. And he kept on talking about, I saw an angel flying. I saw an angel. And everybody's like, okay, Loris, and ain't nobody believe that, he makes any sense.
Yeah.
But it actually turns out to be a pivotal, important piece of evidence. What happens? I know Phoenix ends up falling in the river and getting a cold, which causes him to be knocked out for a while and new characters pulled in. But like, why did he fall into the water?
So when the bridge caught fire and he knew that Maya was over there, he wanted to go and check her and make sure that she was safe. Right. And so he tried to cross the on fire bridge, but immediately fell through and into the water.
Okay. And then that collapsed the rest of the bridge is how that happened. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Well, as a result, Phoenix is like, I can't just, let this, this case be, because at the point where he falls into the river and catches cold, like it looks like Maya is the person who did the crime.
It's no, initially it is.
Oh no, it's Iris. Yeah, Iris. Yeah. Okay, sorry. It's Iris that's convicted, but he's or not convicted, but accused, and he is like, oh, I really, really want to defend her. I don't believe she did it. I need to call somebody in to help me. Who do I call?
Let's call over to Germany. Let's get Miles back in town.
Yeah, and so Edgeworth comes from wherever the hell he was at, and also he calls Franziska. So you've got both of them popping up onto the scene, and Miles is like, this is real awkward, Phoenix. And Phoenix is like, you're the only one I know who can do this, please.
Yeah, I trust you, bud.
I trust you, bud. You got to do it for me, for our friendship, the power of friendship. And then so Miles is like, okay, I'm going to be a defense attorney. This is real weird. So
Godot didn't get pulled for this case for mysterious reasons. Initially, it is assumed that because Phoenix was not on the defense side, he just didn't have any interest in it. That ultimately ends up kind of working in. Like, the reason why he is unavailable before a certain point is something that points to him. But yes, Miles pulls the strings of the prosecutor's office to get Franziska von Karma as the prosecutor for the first day.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's in part because he knows that he can rely on her to assist him in his goals, to uncovering the truth of what's going on.
It's really hard to encapsulate how badass it felt to be playing as Miles for the when I played this game for the first time back around release. It was this was a cool move, and I know that it's that it's fan service or whatever, but it made it feel appropriately climactic. And there are the aforementioned benefits of being in somebody else's head, right?
Yeah, and I definitely like playing as Miles better than I like playing as Phoenix, because Miles's thought processes and things like that are more akin to how I think. So it makes more sense for me to play as Miles, but at the same time, I mean, that's kind of the point. Yeah. Phoenix is a goofball and so on, and you're there to help guide his goofy ass to get through everything. But
it's not entirely without joy either, because like as Miles is making the case for this first day, kind of yes, working to build a case for Iris's innocence, but also there's a certain amount of stalling for time on this. But as Miles starts making these deductions and poking holes in, like at one point he says like, oh, now I understand why he has that goofy grin when he does this stuff. This is fun.
Yeah. And he is actually like, oh, okay, I'm starting to understand Phoenix better. Yeah. So it actually helps to deepen their friendship in that way, because Edgeworth is understanding Phoenix's place a little bit. So yeah, because at first he's like, oh, this is real weird and awkward and everything, but it also serves to give you a little bit more play between Edgeworth and Gumshoe and give you a little bit more of their relationship with each other.
Yeah.
Because like, that, okay, Gumshoe just loves Edgeworth to death, but like, let's see a little bit more of that interaction. Yeah. And also Edgeworth with Franziska, So you get to see a lot of stuff that you weren't privy to in prior titles, where you just have Phoenix to control. Yeah. And that's really fun. Mm-hmm. And that's actually that this case and this part was like, okay, I think I might want to try to get the fan translated version of like the investigations games and see if I can, track down what I want, the hardware to play that. Yes, I know I can emulate, but nice I do not sit at my computer, people. Yeah, no. Not unless I have to.
I mean, these are books. It's like reading comics, and you don't read I do not prefer to read comics at the computer.
Yeah, neither do I. So yeah, anyway, so it's a lot of fun for that. And actually it makes Franziska more palatable to me as well.
Yes.
In this part, because like, she's not always cranked up all the way because Phoenix isn't in the room. So
yeah, they end up making the whip is back, and I don't necessarily care for that. But like whenever Phoenix is around, regardless of who pisses her off, she whips Phoenix. And it's like, why are you hitting me? So.
Well, the person who gets whipped instead is Larry/Laurice, and that's okay. People can whip Larry, like he likes it. Okay, it's fine,
Yeah,
because he turn into a fan, and he's like, I want to draw you, and she's like, shut up, whip, 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 whip.
Yes, yeah.
He's like, yes, please,
But yeah, the first day of the trial, while Edgeworth is there, is poking holes both in what Sister Bikini saw, but also Larry comes in and is is his own unreliable self. You need to actually say like, no, she Iris herself could not have flown over there. Like it had to be somebody else.
Yeah, and it's a lot of what I remember of this trial is just all of the steps you have to take to kind of unlock Pearls actually in the investigation section to get her to talk to you about what was going on, because she has like 4 or 5 locks or something like that.
Everybody has 5 locks at this point.
But yeah, so they're trying to figure out like who got across the bridge, who could possibly have done this and killed her and all this. And of course, it's one of those things where it's like the timing is different. Well, how did the body get over there if it was stabbed in the
Mm-hmm.
garden and all of this mess? Like they find, like what we didn't mention is that like by the time they find out about she was actually stabbed in the garden. That's okay. They finally get across the bridge and everything. They find Maya unconscious and, all of that. And she was supposed to be doing some channeling training or
Yeah.
something. Um, so how do we get from, like, I think in day one of the trial, we basically prove that Iris could not have done everything and managed to get the body wherever or stab it through
Yeah.
or whatever. Like she doesn't have this physical strength or the timing wasn't or something like
It's
that. There was
proved that the murder wound could not have come from the Shichishito,
okay,
based
yeah.
on the testimony. And I guess we don't learn about the cane until later. And if there's no murder weapon on that side of the river, if Iris did it, she couldn't have done it over there. So there's plausible doubt or reasonable doubt. Like okay, like Iris definitely was seen doing something with the body, but that does not necessarily mean that she was the killer.
Yeah. And then that's when they need to go across the river and they have to wait and adjourn until they can figure out what's going on over there.
Yes.
Then they get across the bridge, like they make a makeshift bridge or whatever, and they get across and find Maya unconscious and find evidence in the garden. Okay, that must have been because there's like blood on the pillar of stone. And in the garden area.
The old trick, somebody wrote the name of the purported killer upside down in blood.
Yeah. And also all the snow has been cleared away by somebody rather intentionally. So, so that's all there. Maya has been found unconscious. She was allegedly like channeling somebody. Like you get some evidence that she was channeling.
So you don't actually they don't actually find Maya. Like there's a lot of drama around this.
Oh, that's right. It's sealed. She's sealed up in the cave still.
Yeah. And so when there's an earthquake, Phoenix thinks that she's that she's in there. The entrance to the cave has what appears to be a cyclock on it. And like over the course of the investigation, more cyclocks are added to it. Just as who is in there ends up changing. Who you find is Pearls, who's been over there and is terribly scared because he's been over there alone in the cold, for an entire night.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then there's a scroll that has Misty Faye on it, and there's like stuff on it, like gravy, was it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like gravy all over this. Like it's been desecrated with a bunch of gravy.
Uh-huh.
So, and you're like, okay, that's a weird detail, and you're trying to figure out how that works in.
Yeah, I love this because one of the cyclocks on Pearl, she did it. She put the gravy on there. You find a partially burned note in a nearby incinerator, and at the end, whoever is writing these things, they mention doing something gravely with Misty, and something about a roast or whatever. Like a roast, etc. And so part of getting Pearl's dead, getting her pinned down on this is that you've got to say like, oh, only a little kid would read gravely as gravy, and interpret like, oh, I need to do this to this scroll that has a picture of her on it. She was trying to follow directions, but she's just a kid.
Yeah, and that note. Do we want to talk about who it came from yet?
Yeah. So at this point, a lot of this is revealed through the trial. I think we just need to talk about what happens in the story, because the actual TikTok of this is usual Phoenix Wright setting up a misconception, and then the only possible outcome is the truth. They even say, take away the impossible, all you have left is the truth. And the truth itself is super implausible because it really hinges on you understanding the Karain channeling technique.
Yeah. So the person who was writing notes to Pearl was Morgan, Pearl's mom.
Yep.
And Morgan was trying to tell Pearls to more or less get revenge on Misty Faye and kill her.
By channeling Dahlia Hawthorne. What?
Who has, of course, died because she was on death row from all the other things she's done. So
yeah, turns out Dahlia, and when we find out that there are twins involved, Dahlia and Iris, they are Morgan Faye's first daughters,
who were forsaken.
Yes, they like their dad left Morgan once he figured that she would not become the lead the leader of the Fae clan, would not be the main branch. So he took the kids away, and Dahlia convinced her dad to leave Iris at the basically the convent at this at this temple because more money for me.
Yeah. So Iris was left behind by Dahlia and, left behind by her mom and, was left in this place. And Dahlia went on to do all of the things that we know so well from the entire course of this game because she's the true enemy.
Yeah.
Except not actually in this case.
Oh, it's more. I mean, like Dahlia is awful, but like most of what she did, with the diamond and with Terry and with Valerie was revenge, accurately because her dad did a terrible thing, to taking them away, and but yeah, she was doing that primarily to get revenge on her dad, stealing money and killing his other daughter. And she had her own demonicness there as well, but that was the initial kind of motivation.
So for a while everybody's thinking, okay, so somebody channeled Dahlia Hawthorne and Dahlia Hawthorne killed this lady, and so that's what we're thinking. We should go ahead and say Elise Donim is Misty Faye.
Yep.
So Mia and Maya's mama.
She disappeared in disgrace after the DL6 incident when the botched channeling, it was the first kind of debut of the Karain school on in national news, in the national spotlight, and when the spirit misled her and led to the wrong person being led to the suspected killer being acquitted, she fled in disgrace.
Yeah. And so she's been hiding out there ever since. And, that's where all of the hatred of Morgan comes into play. Like Morgan's like, hunt her down and kill her. She's over here and whatever. And so, but Pearls doesn't understand what's going on. So that's where her part comes in. And she feels bad because she thinks that she, somehow, did everything here, and she feels guilty because she really liked Elise / Misty.
Yeah.
So
she had no idea that she was potentially an accessory to murder. When it was time for her to, at her mother's direction, summon to channel the spirit of Dahlia, she was unable to do it because Misty had learned of the plot through the letter that was sent. Because there was an accomplice, there's a final person who's involved in this who working to protect the family, but she had decided to channel Dahlia herself and was unable to lock herself up fully, and that is what resulted in the confrontation in the garden where Dahlia tried to kill Maya.
Yeah. So Maya was over there for her training. She was walking around in the garden, wasn't she? Just before she was, getting her mind straight or whatever, sorting herself out before she went into the cave to do her business. And that's when she came across Dahlia / Misty / whatever.
Yeah.
Is what they say. And so that's why they say, okay, well, she killed this Elise / Misty person herself, stabbed her and whatever. But then, I don't believe there's an explanation for how in the world the body gets across the bridge and all this other stuff if Maya is in the cave, right? Or
right. So it's just
okay,
like,
so that's the accomplice.
so the iris who the iris who received the body on this side could not have been the iris or the person on the other side who put it on the pendulum to send it over, because what Larry saw, because he was sleeping and looking up from the ground, it was upside down. It was not a person flying. It was this body swinging under the bridge, and an animation that is hilarious, and they show it multiple times.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, just this dead body, just whoa across.
Yeah, like when you find out, okay, so the body gets across the bridge because like it's swung on a rope underneath the bridge and pushed and then sent across that way, and it's just a lot. And then the bridge caught on fire from like the lightning strike or something, right?
Yeah,
that wasn't even intentional. That's just what happened.
Accident. It screwed up the plan.
Yeah. And so that's when Larry saw what he saw and drew what he drew and said, no, that was real.
Yeah.
So
and so we should say what actually happened here. Iris was on the other side receiving the body and changing the basically making it, implicating herself in it, because this was a plan. There was somebody else involved helping to protect the family, who had alerted everybody to what Morgan's plan was. Somebody who would have access to detention and would have heard that the plan was about to go down. Who else but a prosecutor? It would have had to have been Godot.
So Godot, who wasn't prosecuting this case because he couldn't prosecute this case because he was stuck on the side of the mountain. So...
yeah. And so when Dahlia channeled through Misty's Misty's body was about to stab and kill Maya, Diego Godot was there on the scene to stab and kill Misty to make sure that the main family line, Maya, would be protected. Got Iris to take the fall for it because, well, we need to protect the main family line. The Karain, the Karain family cannot fall into disgrace like this. So that was the case. All Maya was able to see was the three lights because of the visor there.
Yeah. And when cleaning up from everything that was going on, Godot could not clean up that stone where the blood stain was. He says, "What blood stain are you talking about?" I don't see anything on that stone, because he can't see the color red.
Yeah,
because his visor has a red,
and that's why he cleared all of the snow instead of just the snow that would that had the blood on it, right? Yeah. And so the person that we're talking to, the Iris that we get coming in to testify and ultimately say like, oh yes, it was me. I was the person who did this. It eventually starts coming out like, oh yeah, this isn't Iris. This is Dahlia being channeled by somebody. And the deduction ultimately comes around to be that the person on the stand is Maya channeling Dahlia. She had done this specifically because, Dahlia wanted to kill Maya and figured this, I will channel her. She cannot kill me because she does not know who channeled her. And we're going to get her on the stand, and she's going to learn, like her punishment will be to have the truth come out and to be unable to, kill the person that she wants to. And her spirit will basically be exorcised because of this. When Maya channeled Dahlia, Dahlia locked Iris away in the cave. So Maya was not locked away. It was Iris.
Yeah, and so that's why there's so many psych locks and trying to make sure that nobody can get in there, is because that would uncover the entire plot. So twisty, changey, presto chango, all over the place. So, but why would Godot try to defend the Fae clan?
Because he loves Mia.
Of course he loves Mia. That's his little kitten.
Yeah, it's his kitten. She was just about to get her claws sharp, and she got killed. And his grudge against Phoenix is that he believes her getting killed was his fault. To which I would say, Phoenix was not the person who killed him.
Yeah, well, and the thing is Phoenix even says that, and then Diego slash Godot eventually says it's because I couldn't fess up to the fact that I failed to be there. You like got poisoned,
Yeah.
and we're supposed to have died, my dude.
He was
but
like,
in
a 5-year coma with like massive central nervous system problems. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not the point. The point is he failed to be there and couldn't save her. And so he blamed, he misplaced his blame onto Phoenix. And then he says, yeah, it's not actually your fault, but I'm going to cry tears of blood.
Yeah. It's just his line is, "Oh, the lawyer can only cry when it's all over," and then cries these tears of blood when it's out. And he refuses other people trying to say, "Well, you just killed Misty, nay Dahlia, or Dahlia, nay Misty, in order to protect Maya." He's like, "Well, no, I wanted to kill Dahlia." In that moment, I saw, I would do whatever it took to strike at her, regardless of whether or not I knew this would, kill an ally of mine, kill an innocent person, right?
Mm-hmm. And, then he's also like, I killed Mia's mom. Okay, cool.
So,
whoops.
Yeah.
So that was like, it's so many twists and turns that it is so hard to keep up with. And if we tried to even lay it out the way that the trial lays it out, there would be no way we would not be able to remember it.
Doing it beat by beat would be pointless. Yeah. But like in the moment, it's cool,
Mm-hmm.
like I feel rewarded for having paid attention to previous cases that had, really outlined and hinged upon how the Karain channeling technique works. It's a throwback to the Karain village mission case back in Justice for All, where Morgan tried to take Maya out the first time.
Mm-hmm.
It is a throwback to that. It is that like this feels like a great culmination, and not just mechanically, because this isn't especially mechanically complicated, but because it does reward the accumulated knowledge. So it is both fan service in a lot of ways, but also kind of a final test for the entire trilogy.
And it's great because this series, you don't know half the time whether the thing that you're paying attention to on the screen bears any importance for later stuff or not.
Right.
You never know. And some of it is just junk and it doesn't have anything to do with anything. And then somebody comes back. And I think the fact that this series has this goofy tone is what makes it work, to where when they do the big reveal and the people come back, you're surprised because you have all this weird nonsense in between. Mm-hmm. And so that actually works to its advantage, that it has this kind of cadence, because it ends up making the surprises surprising in a way that they wouldn't if it was all grimdark serious all the time.
Unpredictability is a huge asset for media. Has been something that Gary and I have really stumbled across in the past year or so, just kind of, like pinning on there. And that is absolutely what is going on here. Like, you could say that the series is tonally confused, but I would say that is a canny move, even if the goofy stuff they put in sometimes wears at the patience. I am looking at you, Larry the Clown, or whatever your name is.
Yeah, that guy Mo, it was Mo
Mo
the clown. But yeah, for sure. And the thing is that when you look at the overarching beats, the story bits that do pile up and aggregate into this, like culmination, it's really some serious and interesting plot twists that, are hard to see even when you're in the middle of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add all this set dressing that's just so goofy that, it's 100% disarming, and it works. It works consistently.
Mm-hmm.
So the tone is actually a very apt choice for what they're doing, for like a very intelligently laid out whodunit.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah. No, I don't know that I have an awful lot more to add. I think that this is such a good conclusion to the story that was laid out.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it comes to the Phoenix Wright games that come after this, I do not know, other than the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles 1, what else is going on with the series. So after Shu Takumi finished that, did he end up working on any of the other ones, or did he mic drop and leave?
I can't, you know what? I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I know that it was if he did come back, it would have been a struggle to get him back because he was so convinced that his story was told. Yeah. So for Apollo Justice, he was just the supervisor and scenario writer, primarily because he was working on Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. I think is
Which
what
is
it
a
was.
fun game.
Yep. Yeah, it does the twist work very well.
Hmm.
One of the more memorable twists in games there. He did act as director for Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright, which is
Hmm.
a good game. He was the director for the Ace Attorney side of it. Did story writing and stuff, and then came back and was director on the Great Ace Attorney games. But as far
Cool.
as Dual Destinies goes and Spirit of Justice, he was not involved in either of those.
And how do those hold up versus like the original trilogy? Like how do all the rest of the series? I already know that I really love the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles from the one game
Yeah.
that I've played, but like how about the other entries?
So there's a little bit of inconsistency to it, obviously, because you have different people at the helm. I think that initially I was a little bit put off by the reliance on other characters. I wanted Phoenix Wright, I wanted Gumshoe.
Hmm.
That said, that cast does end up being pretty good. I think you get more consistently good prosecutors in the later games,
Hmm.
even if they end up being a little bit less like, important to an overarching story. I think Clavier is really good in Apollo Justice. What's his name? The condemned criminal. What's his name? It must be a good if I can't remember his actual name. Uh, the guy who's on death row in Dual Destinies. I think that he ends up serving really well there. And also like the new characters that are brought in end up having some good gameplay gimmicks to them. Apollo Justice with finding tells
Hmm.
there, and Athena Sykes with her psychological profiling and kind of discerning emotional dissonance and what people say. Those mechanics end up being pretty cool. I think like the batting average for the different cases ends up being a little bit higher because there feels like there's less filler,
Hmm.
probably for a lack of an overarching story that they're trying to tell
Yeah.
across a trilogy. That said, I have not played all of Spirit of Justice, which is a shame because that brings Maya back. And is concerned itself again with the Korean channeling technique kind of
Cool.
stuff. That's where Winston Payne headed off to become a prosecutor for their system.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So, yeah, so like that sounds interesting. I'll definitely be playing some of these other Phoenix Wright games in the future. I don't know that
Mhm.
we're going to be, because like after a certain juncture, Phoenix Wright games, like they're cool and they're fun, but it's going to be more of the same of what we've seen. And this
Yeah.
original trilogy sounds like it's, if you're going to play a Phoenix Wright,
You could you,
these would be the ones to play.
you can buy it all on one package on a
Yeah.
lot of different systems. The other ones, at least Apollo Justice and Dual Destinies are available on iOS, but it's not a coherent package, right? It
Yeah.
feels a little bit more although Dual Destinies does have the DLC where you cross-examine a whale. You do cross-examine a killer whale in Orca. So if you thought cross-examining a parrot was dumb, wait till you see.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
And that parrot sends me over the edge because it's like a macaw and a cockatoo mashed together. But anyway, that's not the point.
Cursed by bird knowledge, you are.
I am cursed. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what game we might possibly want to do for another bonus level in the future, but
We can talk about it off the air. There are some other other kind of visual novel style things that are coming out, because we've got the reissue of Chaos Head and Chaos Child coming out.
I have that pre-ordered.
Same. I just pre-ordered it yesterday because I was thinking about these kind of things. There's also Anonymous Code, I think, coming out here. So it's coming out in Japan in November and coming out here in January, something like that. So maybe there might be something new. I think we're gonna play it by ear.
Yeah, sounds good.
But I've appreciated going through these. This has been a nice little hike through down memory lane.
How long has it taken? Like 2 years for us to do it? The whole thing.
Just about.
That's okay. That's okay. It's fine. Too much Phoenix Wright at one time would send me over the edge, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Playing it in doses is the best way, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, that's the way that's the way I played them too. I played them on release.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Kole. It's been a pleasure. Yeah,
and thanks everybody for listening. If you enjoyed these, I'm glad to hear. And you know what to do to support the show. If you're listening to this, you're you're probably aware of the things that we had like. Go listen to Jala Chan's Place. This episode I'm probably going to drop it in the next couple of weeks here. So what is what has recently come out and what is on deck.
Okay, so my show kind of goes in between being about media and then also being about topical things like life stuff. So the last media episode as of the date that we are recording this was Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is a very, very good episode where I have a video production person and an animator on to talk about. So you should definitely take a listen to that. And then the topical episode that we just recently finished releasing was on engaging with femininity. And that talks about issues of what is gender, what is femininity, how does one engage with this concept of self and all of that. So the feedback about the show is a lot of people really, really love the topical episodes. So as much as, you might be kind of iffy, like, I don't know if I want to hear about that kind of a subject, like give it a listen and see for yourself for sure. The next episode that'll be coming out, which will be the newest one at the time this gets released, probably will be on Koi Mil Gaya, which is a Bollywood movie. It is a sci-fi Bollywood movie that has like 7 American movies genres in it. It is a lot. There's so many different things happen in that movie, and it ends up being really charming. And it caused me to have like this backlog of Bollywood films to watch, but I keep on going back and rewatching this one. So definitely have a listen to that. Koi Mil Gaya means I found someone. It is an interesting film. So.
And Indian and Indian language group films are wild. Gary and I recently discovered their love for the movie Baby's Day Out. There were 3 different versions of Baby's Day Out, the ill-loved John Hughes film, including one whose title was James Bond for some reason.
Okay, why not? I mean,
not? We found clips of it on YouTube, and it looks badass.
And, I actually, Dave and I watched a Bollywood film called Bhootnath, which is basically an Indian version of the Canterbury Tales, or not Canterbury Tales. Canterville Ghost. Sorry. Okay. Canterville Ghost. We were doing it for a Monster Dear Monster episode. And that movie it has a rapping Indian ghost. Nice. It's very good. Yeah. It's very good. It's a very cute movie. And actually, next week, we're going to be going to an opening for Vikram Vedha, which is the newest film out, releasing worldwide. Like, we're watching it opening night here.
Oh, cool.
From Hrithik Roshan, who is the actor who plays the main character in Koi Mil Gaya. We love his acting. He is a top-billed Bollywood actor. Very, very good. And that movie seems really cool just from the trailer.
Nice.
So, yeah. Anyway, Bollywood aside, the show does not focus on one particular type of media. So, I talk books, I talk, games sometimes, talk movies, and of course, talk various types of life topics. There will be an episode coming up soon with Dennis talking about Deck of Wonders just as soon as he gets his printed copies. So
nice. Yeah. For people who listen to this, the one most recently that you might be really interested in, you had an episode with the Dea Vecchi Studios people.
yes,
The people
that
who
was
do FMV mystery and horror games.
Yeah, they do the Infectious Madness of Dr. Decker and Shapeshifting Detective and Dark Nights with Poe and Monroe. Their new game, Murderous Muses, comes out hopefully around Halloween.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that's everything. I need to go and have some lunch.
Me too.
We're recording this on a Sunday afternoon. Thank you for hopping on in the morning here, Jala.
Thank you for having me. I was excited to come on and talk about this game.
Yeah, and I'm excited for your next appearance on the main level. Yeah,
we got to figure out when that is.
yeah. I'm sure if you say I would like to be on this night, one of the guys would bow out. So,
okay, I'll keep that in mind. I will drop a line in there sometime soon.
Yeah, cool. Well, you know what to do. I'm Kole Ross. You can find me at Kole Ross on Twitter.
I'm Jala-chan. You can find me in all the places at Jala-chan.
Yeah. And stick around for some more level the next time more level comes out.
There are no titles.
Yeah, no, this one's going to be pretty boring, huh?